The Texas school shooting may have dominated this morning's talk shows, but President Trump had some other issues on his mind, tweeting at length about some of his usual topics: witch hunts, emails, servers, Hillary Clinton, and the swamp. The president also said that he would officially demand the Department of Justice look into whether or not the FBI/DOJ infiltrated or surveilled the Trump campaign for political purposes. For more on all of this, we turn to NewsHour Weekend special correspondent Jeff Greenfield, who joins us now from Santa Barbara. Jeff, reading the president's tweets from over the weekend, he talked about the FBI putting a spy on his campaign. But then we also have this big New York Times story talking about the influences of other nations aside from Russia on potential influence on the 2016 election. So it's kind of two camps. If you're on one side, you have the witch hunt camp. On the other side, it's the iceberg camp, where we're getting a little bit of the tip, but we think there's something below surface. Do these narratives have any crossover, any facts in common?
It's hard to find, but I would suggest a couple of glimmers. This week, the Senate Intelligence Committee, which is controlled by the Republicans, said flatly, yes, they agreed with the intelligence community that Russia did try to interfere with the election at the behest of President Putin with the specific aim of hurting Hillary Clinton and helping Donald Trump. Now, that does not mean that they found that there was collusion or that the Trump campaign knew about it, but that's an important fact that others have in the past tried to minimize or deny. Also, it's interesting to me that no one in the Trump campaign has denied the Times story that there was, in fact, a meeting involving an emissary from two Middle Eastern countries that were interested in helping Donald Trump. Now, had, in fact, they done that, that would be illegal, and we don't know whether the Trump campaign accepted it, but there are certain elements of this story that are beginning to come into focus and say, okay, that much we know. And as you say, in the middle of all these charges and countercharges, that's something to grasp onto.
On the year anniversary of the Mueller investigation, the president and his allies have started to suggest there are darker motives here, or they consider them dark motives of the investigation. Is this an unusual tactic, or is this a case of deja vu all over again?
No, I think this is in many ways unprecedented. The head-spinning part of this, to me, is that in the past, presidents have used the FBI for political reasons. President Johnson regularly got information from FBI Director Hoover. The smoking gun at Watergate was President Nixon's efforts to get the FBI to back off from the investigation. But what you have here is the President of the United States asserting that the FBI, the Justice Department, among others, are involved in an effort to destroy his campaign, to put a spy in his campaign, which, if true, would be a scandal of historic proportions. And so the pushback that we're seeing on the part of the FBI and the part of the people critical of Trump is, no. What you are doing is painting a picture so dark that you are trying to convince your supporters that anything from here on that you hear involving the Trump campaign, just don't believe it because it's all a conspiracy. This is something I've never seen before.
The president this morning tweeted about the midterm campaigns. What does the data tell us about where things stand for Republicans and Democrats at this point?
Well, there's data that would encourage and worry both sides. The two things we think we know about midterms are that they often depend on the president's job approval rating and the so-called generic question. You ask voters, which party do you want to see in charge? Up until very recently, the president's approval numbers have been just abysmal, and the generic advantage for Democrats has been in double digits. In more recent days, we've seen the president's job approval uptick, still low by historic standards, but better than it was, and the generic advantage shrinking for Democrats, which should please Republicans. However, we also learn that the number of young voters who have registered in the wake, particularly of the Parkland shooting last winter, have been unprecedentedly large. And that should worry the Republicans, because if young voters do turn out, which they historically don't do in midterms, that's bad news for the Republicans, because the president's approval rating among younger voters is just awful.
Jeff Greenfield, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.